All right, Thursday night, Krug Show. Sterling Bennett is in the house. The NFC West gets a little juicier as the Seahawks beat the Cardinals in a tight affair. We'll talk about that one from the desert, as well as Niners Jaguars. We got a lot to get to, so let's get to it. Off and running on a Thursday night. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. They do run out, so get there early. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And we're also brought to you tonight by our good friends at Sleeper. That's right. Sleeper is bringing you the entire 49er football season on the Krug Show, presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. We'll do a Sleeper lineup before we get out of here. And, of course, we're also brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades. Great follow on Instagram, at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. And we can't forget our good friends at Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula, thanks to Anthony Catania. All right, we got a lot to get to, but the Thursday nighter goes to the Seahawks. Wasn't sure how I wanted to wager on this one. Finally, I just went with the Seahawks minus the 1.5. It looked like it was going to cover for fun, and then it wound up being a very close battle at the end, and it was a field goal ultimately decided it. But Sterling, what do you think? I mean, Niners are 3-0. Now you got the Seahawks at 3-1 with their only loss coming to the Niners. You got the Cardinals at 2-2. You got the Rams at 2-1, waiting on a Thursday night tilt down there. Every single team in this division has a plus point differential, with the Seahawks, being the highest. Now that they've played the extra game. Would you give me your takeaway from the Seahawks win in Arizona?
Well, it certainly makes the Niners game on Sunday a heck of a lot more important to kind of keep pace with Seattle. Obviously, you have the tiebreaker, but I don't know, Larry. It's the NFC West is tough. Obviously, it's a division game, short week for both teams, but the Cardinals can't close out, and the Seahawks just don't have the offensive firepower, in my opinion, to make them a legitimate contender. Yeah, they're 3-1, and we'll see how the year works out. But when you talk about legitimate NFL playoff contenders, NFC winners, when it's all said and done, I just don't buy into either one of these teams, Arizona and Seattle. But I'll tell you this, that Seahawks defense can play well. Now, they got kind of a break tonight because the Cardinals don't know how to do kickoffs. But besides that, man, I don't know. The Cardinals seem broken. The Cardinals really seem broken. Marvin Harrison Jr. can't catch the football. Obviously, he had a resurgence late, but the Cardinals just seem like they are once again 1-2 years away from making a big step forward in the NFC West.
Well, if you watch this one, I mean, the Cardinals, I think, were without almost their entire offensive line.
Yeah.
And it really showed. Seattle just jailbreak on Kyler Murray. They sacked him 6 times. They hit him 7 times. Nwosu had 2 sacks. Devin Witherspoon, Ernest Jones, Drake Thomas, Leonard Williams. I mean, all these guys got in on the mix. So Seattle's defense kind of controlled the day. Arizona won the fourth quarter 14-6. But Seattle gets the late field goal and wins 23-20 to run their record to 3-1, and Cardinals drop to 2-2. I just, the Cardinals are, they lost James Conner last week. Their line's banged up. Trey Benson ran for 35 yards on 4-4 a carry, but, just they couldn't protect their quarterback. Kyler threw 2 picks. He was sacked 6 times. I mean, when you move around the way Kyler moves around, for a guy like that, who's that fast to get sacked 6 times in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened. I think he's got sacked 5 times in a game earlier this year. So he's making his line look pretty bad. The Cardinals are just not a very good organization. And
yeah,
Seattle, I don't think is a great team, but they're a good half team, right? They're a pretty good defense. I don't know what was going on with Seattle tonight. They didn't throw Jackson Smith-Njigba any passes at all in the first half. And then in the second half, they threw him 5 and he caught 4 of them for 79 yards. But didn't you think that was odd? I mean, JSN has been one of the most highly targeted players in all of football. Played supposedly sick last week, and this week comes out, doesn't get a single target in the first half. I thought that was a surprise.
I think JSN has, at least coming into this week against the Cardinals, I think he had the second most receiving yards in football. So you'd think he'd be a highly targeted player for them. Not sure why. Maybe there was some reason for it in the first half, but yeah, usually you want to target your best receiver, and it's not as if the Seahawks have good receivers behind him. Yeah, Cooper Kupp's there. He's fine. He's an older player now. Torrey Horton Jr., he's a fine young player, but he's not JSN having a breakout year for them offensively. So a little shocked about that, but that kind of feels like the Seahawks offense, where they're going to be a defensive-led team. They're going to win games 20-17, 23-20 the entire year. They'll be competitive. They'll be a good team in regards to record, but their offense just lacks that firepower. I do wonder, there's a really conservative play calling with Seattle right now, in my opinion, where I know they want to try to run the football, but Darnold can sling the rock. Like, let's let him drop back and kind of show what he did last year in Minnesota when they were rocking. Yeah, he doesn't have Jefferson and the weapons they have, but he's got a good arm. Like, I want to see him move the football downfield continually. So a little confused there, but that to me feels like how they're going to win games. Be a game manager, don't turn the ball over, and hopefully your defense can keep games close as the year goes on.
5 field goals tonight, 3 for 4 for Jason Myers, 2 for 2 for Chad Ryland. And the Seahawks, I just think the Seahawks are a better organization than the Cardinals. And they get the 23-20 win in one of these forgettable Thursday nighters that you're just like, wow, really? Now, we'll see where these teams go from here. But I think Arizona is just going to fall apart. I think Seattle is going to show all year that they're a good half team. But if they ever lose Jackson Smith-Njigba, they're cooked. Because, I mean, Cooper Kupp looks old, and Torrey Holton is a rookie, and they just don't have a whole lot. They lean on JSN a ton. And I can't even think. There are other receivers, Torrey Horton, Jake Bobo, Cooper Kupp.
It's not great.
It's a one-man show at JSN. So if you can take away Jackson Smith-Njigba, you got a great chance to beat the Seahawks, but the Cardinals couldn't do it. And then if you look at this thing, look at the way, these teams were, one team committed to the run, Seattle. They ran it 35 times for 155 yards, 4 a carry. And they ran it 35 times. They threw it 26 times. Arizona, on the other hand, ran it 17 times and passed it 41 times. And I don't think Kyler Murray's going to win any games this year that he passes 41 times.
Which it's crazy because that's not been like their MO. Their MO has been in getting out to early leads and trying to kind of milk the clock and close games out. But we saw against San Francisco, we're seeing it now tonight against the Seahawks. The Cardinals can't run the football. James Conner, Trey Benson, DeMarcado, they just can't run the football. Now, that is because of the offensive line more than just the running backs they have back there. But even when they won their first handful of games against the Saints and the Panthers, they couldn't run the football. So that to me is the problem. And whether it's the offensive line or the guys they have there, but the Cardinals, for all the good things they do, and they do some things pretty well. But the lack of weapons they have playing consistently, the lack of running game they have, they're not going to win many games playing football like they did tonight. And it's now the second time in 2 weeks. What has it been, 5 days? They've lost games on back-to-back game-losing field goals. So it's kind of heartbreaking. They're a younger team, and you kind of said it. They may fall apart this early in the year. So Jonathan Gannon has his hands full trying to kind of collect his team and say, hey, it's early still. We have a big push ahead of us. So this could be a backbreaker for the Cardinals if they don't get things right in the next few weeks.
Well, it kicks off week 4 tonight, and I actually think this might be one of the best weeks of football I've seen in a while. I mean, if you look at some of these matchups. You got Vikings Steelers. That was a rematch of whatever Super Bowl 4 or 5 or whatever it was, early Super Bowl.
Yeah, before my time.
Before my time too. Vikings with Fran Tarkenton lost to the Steelers and Terry Bradshaw and a killer Steeler defense way back when. That is a historic, a great, as Tolbert used to say, a helmet game. Then you got I think an exciting game between Michael Penix and Jaden Daniels. Is Jaden Daniels playing?
I'm not sure.
I know he was banged up. The Commanders are 2-1. The Falcons have been disappointing at 1-2.
Yeah. Penix looked terrible against
Penix
Carolina.
Got yanked, and so that I think that's kind of an interesting game. There's a few interesting games. I mean, Jackson Dart's debut at home.
Yeah,
against the Chargers, I think it's going to be really good. Eagles Buccaneers could be really, really good. I think Texans Titans could be juicy because they're both 0-3, and the Texans really fashioned themselves as a playoff team. So I mean, D'Amico Ryans could be coaching for his freaking job this
think
Sunday.
So? You think so?
Probably not. But I mean, if they fall into an 0-4 hole, I mean, there's a lot of people that believe that Bobby Slowick got framed last year and that CJ Stroud stinks and that the Texans are fool's gold and that it's all going to implode on them. So if CJ Stroud does stink, then D'Amico's probably going to get fired. I mean, I would say, I mean, we'll see, because I love D'Amico. I think he's a good coach, but you don't get forever in the NFL. I mean, then you got Rams Colts, which I think is going to be really exciting. Jags Niners, I think quietly is a very, very good matchup. We'll talk about that. Ravens Chiefs at Arrowhead, with both teams rolling in 1-2, and Baltimore favored by 2.5 on the road against the Chiefs. Packers Cowboys on Sunday Night Football from Dallas, the return of Micah Parsons. There's a lot of good games. I mean, Bengals Broncos on Monday night and Jets Dolphins on Monday night, and Dolphins and Jets are both 0-3. And Aaron Glenn is chomping at the bit to get a win, but I think the Dolphins probably get over there. So I mean, I think week 4 has a lot of really good matchups if you look around and look closely. I will be at Jets Niners, or at Jags Niners. And so let's get your thoughts on that. I mean, is this a trap game for the Niners? The Niners are 3-0. They're 1-0 at home. They're 1-0 with Brock Purdy. They're 2-0 with Mac Jones. We really don't know who's going to play quarterback. The people that, Shanahan made it seem today on the radio like everything's leaning towards Purdy, but then both quarterbacks hit the podium on a Thursday afternoon, which means that either one of them could start. The people that cover the Niners, regularly and have for years, seem to believe that because Purdy's taking the first rep in practice, that he's going to be the starter. But I got to be honest, Sterling, my eyes tell me that Mac Jones is going to be the starter. Brock Purdy, to me, doesn't look right. He doesn't look 100%. He's sailing a number of passes. I know they're saying he looks better than Mac, but I don't know that I agree with that. I think Mac, I don't know. I can't put myself in their bodies and tell you how much pain they're feeling, but Mac Jones looks more like Mac Jones and in these practices than Brock Purdy looks like Brock Purdy to me. I see Brock Purdy looks like a guy who doesn't want to run, who looks a little moving gingerly on the first couple steps, and is not firing his foot into the ground. It's more like placing it into the ground. Sometimes he's placing it into the ground late, and the ball is sailing on him. I know they're saying Purdy, but something just tells me that this might be misdirection. What do you think? I mean, who do you think we're going to see? Do you put it beyond Shanahan to be, use some gamesmanship here?
I don't put it beyond Kyle anything, honestly. The way he utilized CMC's injury to maybe toy with the Seahawks week 1, but I am leaning towards Purdy playing. Now, you've seen him in person, and I haven't, so that certainly it gives you a leg up in that conversation. But all the talking points kind of make it seem like he'll play. I think Rappaport and Shanahan, they kind of all said the same thing. If he has a good chance to play this Sunday, which could be nothing, could simply be PR, could be, again, playing the game, if you will. That is my concern, though, with Purdy, of that the last thing you want to do is, even if he is 85%, if he is immobile, if he is or less mobile, and it's a pretty good pass rush with the Jaguars. So I don't know if you want to risk that. Now, if he's healthy enough to play, then okay, awesome. Like, go out there and play football and go out there and try to win a game. But I'm leaning Purdy. My only fear is that he goes out there and gets hurt again, and then we're sitting back saying, "Oh, Mac Jones is the quarterback one for not weeks but months." But even Mac Jones is hurt too. So there are some folks that even believe that Martinez is the quarterback to start this Sunday, which I don't believe that whatsoever. They would have brought in somebody else if he was going to start. So, but I'm leaning towards Purdy, and fingers crossed that toe's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. It's an interesting thing. I mean, like when Purdy talked today, here, we'll play a cut. We'll play a cut from Purdy. I think we have one here. Matt Lively got this today. So let me just grab that. We'll play this and we'll listen to what Purdy in his own words, and we'll see if we can decipher anything based on what he sounds like and what he's saying. All right, so here it is. And okay, let's just rewind it. Here we go.
Really like where I'm at with progress with it healing up and feeling better and dropping back, throwing, and like where I'm at. So it's been good.
Playing Sunday for sure.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm taking it day by day still, but feel a lot better. So really like.
So, I mean, he's almost pretty much asked a direct question there. And he's like, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's Thursday, right? I mean, if he was, I mean, what's the big secret?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, to me, just the way it looks, like the way he's moved, like, to me, Mac Jones looks more like Mac Jones and Brock Purdy looks like Brock Purdy. Now, I don't know if Mac Jones is in a ton of pain, but Mac Jones doesn't move great anyway, and he's got a knee brace on. But you got Purdy, who moves very, very well. And I think a big part of his value proposition is his ability to escape and get away and elude the rush and use that 1-5-4 10-yard split. And I'm just not seeing that. I'm not seeing that level of explosiveness. And, the other thing is, it's like, Mac's a backup quarterback who's got a sore knee. If his knee is more sore after the game, is it that big of a deal? Where if Brock Purdy's got turf toe, if he exacerbates the turf toe, he's looking at a Joe Burrow type situation. So I don't know. To me, it seems like you should be way, way, way careful with turf toe. Now, when they first told us Brock was out, they said he's out this week, right? He's out 1 week. And then quickly it was 2 weeks. And then last week when Shanahan was talking about how the initial hearing of the injury, he said that the doctors told him it was 2 to 6 weeks. And so now here we are 2 weeks later, and Mac Jones has won 2 games, and I'm sure Brock is super competitive and wants to get back in there. But I don't know, man. If I was Shanahan, you can go Brock Purdy with turf toe, who hasn't played in 2 weeks, or you could go Mac Jones against the team that he played for last year. And I don't know. Mac Jones is 2-0. He's playing well. Do you really? I mean, what if you go back to Brock and he struggles, but he's not hurt?
Yeah.
Then what? Are you going to pull him, and then you're going to tell him that he's hurt? And then you're going to try to tell us that the reason that he didn't get pulled from the game, he's just hurt.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened to Jimmy Garoppolo in 2020 against the Cardinals, right? Where the ankle's a problem. He goes back out there. He doesn't play well. Clearly, he's limping and not playing well. They bench him for whoever's Nick Mullins, Bedford, whoever it was. And then it's like, oh, Jimmy's out for the season. And so it's like, okay, like clearly at that time, Garoppolo pushed himself and really couldn't play yet. And there was a dispute there of the Shanahan and doctors and whatnot, but that's the last thing you want here too, is Purdy to go out there and say, yeah, I'm a gamer. I want to go out there and play football, but not be 100%, is immobile, gets hurt again. And then Mac Jones has to go out there and kind of clean things up, which not that you want that. You want Purdy to be healthy. You want him out there for the long run, but that will create a much bigger conversation that San Francisco does not want to have, 4 or 5 games into Brock Purdy being paid like a franchise quarterback, which Mac's played fine. He's not been great, but he's been really good at times. And you've won your 2 games. He was great against the Saints. He was good enough against the Cardinals late. And so I would much rather have a healthy Brock Purdy play against the Jaguars, much better quarterback, mobile quarterback. But my only concern is that Jones being so immobile that this Jaguars defense that knows how to generate pressure from linebackers, from cornerbacks, from safeties, from the 2 edge guys, like he'll be a sitting duck behind this offensive line. And that to me is a problem, especially knowing that the running game for San Francisco hasn't gotten going. And right now you're playing a top 10 rushing defense in Jacksonville. So there's so much to take into account. Like, would you rather sit Purdy this Sunday, play a maybe somewhat limited Mac Jones, and then have Purdy back for the short game against the Rams, or take a risk this Sunday, hopefully win against Jacksonville, give you a better chance to win against Jacksonville, but then maybe risk losing against the Rams on Thursday night? So it's much more than just, are you healthy enough? It's like, can we afford to lose this game on Sunday? I think this game against Jacksonville is probably one of the more important games they played all year.
Why so?
Because if you win this game, you're 4-0.
Not a division game. It's not a conference game.
It's not. But you'll be 4-0 if you win on Sunday. Your next 4 games are on the road against the Rams, on the road against the Buccaneers, at home against the Falcons. Then you have the Texans, who haven't played good football, but the idea is they'll be better as the year goes on, hopefully, once they can get guys back healthy and the offensive line plays better. You're at least guaranteeing yourself a 500 record post week 8. And you hope you can beat the Texans or beat the Buccaneers, whoever, and be 6-2, be 5-3. If you win on Sunday, you're guaranteeing yourself 4-4 at least, at the worst, after week 8. And that really isn't a bad pace to be, knowing that you're getting Ayuk back, Kittle back, and hopefully Mustafa back down the road. So I think their first 4 games against Seattle, Cardinals, division games, must-win games. But this game against Jacksonville can kind of hedge their bets, if you will, with the next month of games ahead of them.
I tweeted out earlier today, I said, I have no inside sources. I've been wrong many times before, but based on what I've seen this week at practice and from what I've heard from these quarterback pressers, I think the 49ers are going to start Mac Jones against Jacksonville. I said, Brock is taking the first rep in practice drills this week, and usually that's a good indicator that he's going to start, but Purdy still moves like a quarterback with a tender toe. Mac looks like he's in a good rhythm. It's a long season. They play again Thursday night. I'd go with Mac. I think Shanahan will too. Michael's on Twitter says, Kyle Shanahan said on KNBR that Brock is starting if he has no setbacks, basically, and that Mac is more limited than Brock now. So unless he's lying. And then John Jay jumps in. Well, it was just a couple of weeks ago that Shanahan said he's sticking with Jake Moody. So in other words, stay
Not
tuned.
wrong.
Yeah, I can see this little back and forth. I have no sources, as I'm saying, and we're all guessing, but like Brock Purdy, like even Grant Cohn tweeted out this afternoon after that Brock Purdy presser. He's like, Brock Purdy didn't sound like he was playing this week. And I that was my takeaway as well. He's like, if I go and if I can, and it's like, well, wait a second, you've been taking first team reps. So what's the if? There's only one more practice before the game. So are you planning on having some kind of regression, or is the fact that you're taking number 1 reps this week really still doesn't mean that you're the number one guy for this game. I don't know. But I'll say this. I think it's not good, no matter what the circumstances or the reasons, to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to your quarterbacks. Right. So, like, I'd almost rather go with an extended period of time with Mac Jones and then get Brock really healthy and then have Brock come back and have an extended run, himself, as opposed to, they went with Mac against the Cardinals and Brock against the Jags, and then Brock struggled a little bit and threw a couple picks. So then they went back to Mac on Thursday night, and then they went back to, you know what I mean? Then you're starting to invite the circus to town. You're starting to you're almost begging for the distraction. I think in this scenario, I mean, the other thing is you're winning games, and your starting quarterback is healing. And that right there is almost like a double win. You're proving you can win with your backup quarterback. I mean, if Brock's in charge, then I think Brock's probably going to play. But if Shanahan's in charge, I think probably Shanahan's going to put down his foot and say, you know what? We're going to go one more week with Mac Jones. I think they should just let's see if Mac Jones can win another game. I mean, he's 2-0. He's played pretty well. He's in pretty good rhythm. I saw that they're exactly both 4-6 in their last 10 starts with almost the exact same touchdown to interception ratio. So there is no what about that? No, that's pretty much even. So I don't know. I mean, Brock's their better quarterback, and it really leads to the next big question, which is the question about the 49ers offensive line. And that is that the 49ers offensive line has not been very good. Their run block win rate is 29th in the NFL. Their stuffed run percentage is 31st in the NFL. They cannot run. The Niners are the only team in the NFL that has yet to post a rushing touchdown, and they have, arguably one of the best, if not the best, back in the game. So you don't have any rushing touchdowns, despite the fact you have Christian McCaffrey. You're 29th in run block win rate. You're 31st in stuffed run percentage. You're 22nd, by the way, in pass block win rate. It's not like you're some awesome pass blocking team. Greg Cosell said that they're not getting a lot out of their guards, and commented that their O-line, especially the guards, are not moving people in the red zone. And the numbers show that. Through 3 games, CMC has 13 carries in the red zone for 7 yards. And it's not like everybody sucks in the red zone. Philly is 8 for 8 in the red zone with 8 touchdowns. The Niners have the third worst red zone offense in football. They rank 3rd lowest in the NFL in points per red zone trip.
Well, that sounds just like last season, right? And personnel was different, but the offensive line pretty much the same. Especially in the first half of the year, you had pretty much the exact same guys minus Aaron Banks. You have Connor Colby now and Ben Barch for 1 game against the Seahawks. This offensive line hasn't been good in the red zone for a year, or now over a year. And I don't know who it is exactly. It's the problem, but it's not Christian McCaffrey. It's not Brian Robinson. Maybe not having George Kittle hurts the red zone offense on the ground, but that really shouldn't dictate having your tight end be a blocker in the red zone, how much push your guys get. Brendel hasn't been great, albeit, PFF would say otherwise. I don't believe that. I think right now PFF has the Niners offensive line ranked as the 8th best pass blocking offense. I don't buy that in any way. I know it's been better recently, but the offensive line as a whole needs a makeover. Trent's there and he's played good and he's getting older, but he's still fine. He's a good left tackle. You're playing a 7th round rookie and a sophomore guard. There is room that there will be some, I guess you can say, kind of some drawbacks to that. And Brendel's not been good for the last couple of years. And McKivitz has actually been pretty good this year, I will say. But there's just no push. There's been, whether it's a leverage problem, whether it's not getting to the second level, I don't know what it is. There's no real pinpoint, no exact reasons, but I have often said the Shanahan offense, the offensive scheme itself, will flourish if the offensive line is good. And you've seen it the last couple of years that when the offensive line has gotten worse, they can't throw the football great. They can't run the football basically at all now, it seems like this season. And there's just no push there. They have to go find actual adequate guards, get a good center, hopefully during the offseason. But this is what they have. They're stuck with this to kind of ride out 2025. So how do you make it work? How do you pull in the right guys to help block and whatnot? How do you get guys healthy enough to be out there for you for, 35 attempts per game, whatever it may be. But I was hoping last year would be, but I'm really hoping this year the struggles they've had with Christian McCaffrey back would indicate that the offensive line needs to be redone in the offseason to get themselves better guides on the interior. The interior offensive line means so much. They let Banks go for the right reasons. Now it's time to let Brendel go and maybe even find a left guard for the right reasons too.
Well, I mean, and now we're getting into this discussion about Trey Hendrickson and should the Niners trade and so on and so forth. And we'll get into it more, but I don't care what, who's out there. There's no way the 49ers can trade their 2026 first-round pick. That thing is earmarked for an offensive tackle. Either, Spencer Fano from Utah, the guy from Miami, Caden Proctor from Bama, Caleb Lomu from Utah, Isaiah World from Oregon, Trevor Goolsby from Texas, Xavier Chaplin from Auburn. I mean, they got to use their first round pick this year on an offensive tackle. And they can't trade it for a defensive lineman because they need one this year. So we'll get more into that in just a second. Let's hit a couple of these supers and then we'll jump to our sleeper lineup. Joseph Ernberg in the house. He said Mac needs to play the Jags and the Rams game. Okay. I hear you. I would ride the hot hand as well. It's a long, long year. Turf toe is ugly. You don't want to be, you make the wrong call here. See, like right now, everything's very innocent and it's like, oh, you've won a couple games with Mac and Brock's been out a couple games and he sure would like to play. And it's like, oh yeah, everything seems so, everything seems like just very, very safe and like there's no bad decisions. You make the wrong decision here and you could be staring at Adrian Martinez starting games in a very short amount of time. If you somehow exacerbate Brock Purdy's turf toe by forcing him or by him telling you that he wants to play and you saying, we'll just give in to him because he's the guy. And then all of a sudden he aggravates that thing and he's out for 2 months. And now you've got Mac Jones behind this offensive line that isn't all that great. I mean, you could easily your whole season could go down the tubes in the next 2 weeks if you make the wrong call on the quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see. Ernberg asked this one, has Brock lost his competitive nature from the money? No, if anything, I think because Jones has won the last couple of games, he wants to get in there and play. I think this is part of his competitive nature. And believe me, Brock Purdy's competitive nature is his most dominant trait as a player. That's the number one thing that stands out. It's not his size or his speed or his brain or his arm strength. It's how competitive he is. He is a crazy competitor. So yeah, he does not like watching despite the fact he's got $265 million, despite the fact that he's got a brand new baby and, he's got to be smart with his decisions about his body and about his career. He wants to play. And he wants to play badly. And I think Jones winning only makes him want to play that much more. But I think you got to protect Brock from Brock. And you got to say to him, you know what? We're going with Jones for another week. That's what I would do. And I don't know if they're going to do that. But I get the sense that Brock's been taking all the first team reps. If he really were going to play, I think it would just be like, yeah, I'm back. I'm playing. And he wouldn't. And then with these questions of, are you going to play? There would be there's no misdirection needed because, yeah, I'm practicing this week and I intend on playing. But you can kind of tell with his vibe that that's not what he's saying. And I think they're playing games here. I think they're going to go back to Jones and have it be a surprise.
Do you think
really
that maybe they just want to get through Friday. And okay, Brock's good. Okay, we made it through the entire week. There wasn't a setback. Like, we don't actually know what Brock and his injury are. Shanahan called it turf toe because Eric Branch kept asking him, "Is it turf toe? Is it turf toe?" He was like, "If you want me to call it that, I'll call it that. It's not like sure, it's turf toe. Awesome." And they've run with that in the media, which okay, it may be some, have some resemblance to turf toe, which. Yeah, the report I think from Schefter was 2 to 6 weeks, 2 to 5 weeks, and it's been
and it's been 2.
Yeah, and it's going on the 3rd. He missed the Saints game, he missed the Cardinals game. Now here we are. So maybe I think the timelines add up for Purdy to return, but part of me just wonders if Kyle's like, look, there's no reason to tell anybody who the starter is. I've told the guys behind the scenes who the starter is, or maybe he hasn't, and is like, you know what? Keep the guys on their toes. That way they can't tell the media or leak out to the media who's starting on Sunday. But I want to ask you this, though. If, let's say, Purdy is inching closer to starting, and let's say San Francisco wants to play Mac Jones on Sunday against Jacksonville, and the plan is to start Purdy on Thursday against the Rams on the short week.
Which lots of teams are doing this, by the way, not necessarily with their quarterbacks, but they're doing it. They have 2 running backs. Guess what? One guy's going Sunday, and the other guy's going on Thursday. We've seen that in the last few years quite a bit.
Do you think that Purdy would back up Mac Jones if he's almost good enough to play or healthy enough to play, or will they ride A.J. Martinez as the backup again, like on Sunday against the Cardinals? Because the last thing you want, knowing Mac Jones does have limitations because of the injury to his knee, if he gets hurt and Brock Purdy, let's say, is 85% and could maybe play, but you want to not risk it, I'd rather have Brock Purdy back up Mac Jones than Adrian Martinez. What do you think?
Not really sure on that one, actually. I've thought about this last week. It's like, well, why did they not make Brock the backup last week?
Right.
It's because they didn't want him to play. I would say it's a long year, man. It's a long year. It's a long year. And Brock Purdy's gotten hurt a lot. And, not everybody has what the Niners have. Not everybody has a backup quarterback that they can win with. And the Niners have won the last couple of games. So I don't know. I think once again, I understand Brock wants to play. I bet you anything he wants to play. I bet you he's told Shanahan he's ready to play. But that's where I think if I were the 49ers, I would be the adult in the room and just go, you know what? You don't quite look right to me, because he doesn't look right. I mean, I'm watching him at practice every day, and I have seen no less than a half dozen throws where he didn't get the foot down and the ball sailed. I mean, I've seen it all week long, where he's putting the toe down, but it doesn't look the same. It's like a little bit more gentle, and then here comes the ball, and it's 5 feet over the receiver. Nobody's even making a play on it. So that's what happens when you can't get your foot down, is your release stays up high and your ball is released high. And I've seen it. I've seen it this week at least a half dozen times. So, and then also when he's running, that's the other thing. What if Brock Purdy plays and he can do everything except the escapability?
Right.
And now you don't have the escapability. Well, now you get more negative plays. Now you get more sacks. Now you get more hits. I don't know. I get the vibe that they're going to give him one more week, or not even a week, right? Just 4 more days. I think they're going to go with Mac. I mean, and then the other thing too is, like, what if you go back to Brock and he struggles?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, well, is he struggling because he's not good? Or is he struggling because he's hurt?
Yeah.
That
has crossed my mind.
It becomes like a big referendum on his how is he healthy? Well, he says he's healthy, but how healthy is he? So we'll get into that, and it starts getting.
That is part of my concern if Purdy plays, albeit, I think Brock's the starter no matter what Mac Jones does. It's not going to change anything. But like, The Jacksonville Jaguars this year are blitzing quarterbacks 33% of snaps, and Jones isn't mobile whatsoever, and Purdy with, I guess, quote unquote turf toe, whatever it may be, on his foot, maybe less mobile than he usually is. Like, the Jacksonville's going to bring pressure, no matter who the quarterback is. And so if you have a limited Brock Purdy out there that, one hit, one wrong hit, the turf toe acts up again, whatever it is, that could be a problem. But whoever the quarterback is for San Francisco, Jacksonville is going to make sure they are bringing pressure, utilizing stunts. They're bringing in nickelbacks and safeties and linebackers. They are going to make sure the quarterback has some pressure to it. But in that same case, Purdy has been a pretty good quarterback against the blitz his entire career. You go back and you average 2022 to 2024, and Purdy has a 77.6 PFF grade, a 66.5% completion rate, over 1,300 yards per year on average, and 10 touchdowns and 3 picks. So there may be some, advanced numbers, if you will, that may lean towards San Francisco thinking, Mac limited, he's played good, but Purdy does give us a better chance to win, even if he is somewhat limited on Sunday against Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just all comes down to, can Brock escape? Can he sprint away? Because that's what the job is. He's going to have to sprint away. Strawberry reacts as if Brock doesn't play Sunday, then throw Mac in on Thursday against the Rams D line, since he's apparently a Hall of Famer. What?
I will say Strawberry has a vendetta against Mac Jones.
Jeez. I mean, so salty. All the guy's done is won a couple football games, but he looks pretty good. And it's like, you know what? Play somebody who's healthy. My whole thing is, I'm not going to be happy if I see Brock Purdy out there and he can't get away. Because if he can't get away,
gets hurt.
If he can't get away, and then you're sitting there and you played him, and you played him, why? Because he wants to play. He's very competitive. Of course he wants to play. I'd want to play too if my backup were in there kicking butt. I'd want to play, but it doesn't mean it's the right decision. It just means it's what Brock wants.
It's like summertime when you can't go outside, but you see your friends out the window playing football in the street, and you're like, I want to be out there. Like, I'm bored inside. My mom's yelling at me. I got in trouble. I acted up, and now all my friends are out there having a great time, and I'm sitting here like, well, man, I wish that was me. But sometimes you are better off in the hands of somebody else. In this case, Purdy, maybe being told by the head coach and the doctors, like, give it one more game and you can play Thursday. So when do you think they'll announce this, though? Do you think we'll get a Schefter tweet Saturday night, oh, Purdy's playing, or do you think we'll get a Jay Glazer announcement on Sunday morning, Purdy's playing?
Yeah, I think it's Sunday morning.
Okay.
I think it's Sunday morning. I think they're going to play decision. It's going to be Sunday morning, and then they're going to say they're going to go with Mac. That would be my guess. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? All right. We'll find out. We're going to find out soon enough. Either way, it's going to be a tough game. And we'll talk more about the Jags in a second, because they have 9 takeaways in the first 3 games, and they're really looking good on the defensive side of the ball. But before we do any of that, let's do our sleeper lineup. That's right. The 49er football season on the Krug Show this year is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy, where you choose 2 to 8 players, pregame or live, and pick more or less on their stats projections. And if you're new to it, use the promo code Larry and you'll get a 100% deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. The link is right there in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, let's take a look at this. We've had a lot of success with these lineups, so let's take a look at Niners Jaguars. What do we want to look at here? What statistical? Let's go Brian Thomas, because Brian Thomas has been ice cold. This has been one of the interesting stories this year. This was probably maybe the best rookie receiver last year. Him and Malik Neighbors were the best. And now Brian Thomas this year, I talked to somebody from Jacksonville, and they're like, he doesn't look like the same guy this year. He's not doing the same things. And for whatever reason, if you're the 49ers, I think you got to fear the breakout game from from him, really from Travis Hunter, possibly from Trevor. The one thing, that Shanahan talked today on KMBR. He said the one thing about Liam Cohn is that he seems like he can always run the ball. And sure enough, Jacksonville with Bashul Tutin and Etienne, Trevor Etienne, they're running the heck out of it right now.
Yeah, they're awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. So, and they both have a lot of speed. So I would go less on the 62.5 receiving yards for Brian Thomas. He's just been cold. It's a little bit of a gamble there because, he is a great talent. But let's go less than 62.5 receiving yards. Is there somebody you want to jump in on here?
Yeah, I mean, Travis Etienne, I think, has been a home run for Jacksonville this year. I love what I've seen from San Francisco's run defense, but this is a different rushing attack than they've seen. The Cardinals can't run the football. The Seahawks were trying to, but didn't have too much success. They don't have a back like Etienne that can break free whenever he gets a chance. You look at the stats this year; they're averaging nearly 142 yards per game on the ground combined from Etienne and Tuden combined. They run the ball nearly 30 times a game. That's 9th in football. And you go to Etienne as one back, and he's tied for 3rd with 167 yards after contact, and is tied for 4th with 6 explosive runs. You can say San Francisco's run defense has improved. They're not going to have Nick Bosa. They're probably not going to have CJ West, maybe, which I don't know how much the latter impacts everything, but my money's on Etienne having another big game. He's been so hard to stop. It's one of those, I got to see San Francisco stop it to prove to me they can actually do it.
Let's go with 53 or 52.5 rush yards more.
Yeah.
How about Pearsall? Let's see Pearsall's numbers. So 66.5 yards receiving. Okay. I kind of think his numbers may go down a little bit with Demarcus Robinson coming back. Does Demarcus Robinson have a card here? Can we go to Demarcus Robinson? I wonder. There's Brian Robinson. No Demarcus Robinson. So he's I think Demarcus Robinson might be a factor in this game.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at Tongas. Let's take a look at Tongas for a second, because Tongas he's playing more of the snaps than Farrell.
Yeah.
Tongas, 21.5 receiving yards. It's still going to require 3 or 4 catches.
Yeah, it seems high.
That seems a little high for him, but that's also too low to go under.
Yeah.
All right, let's not do that. Let's see Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence. The Niners have not had an interception since the Seattle game last year by Isaac Yiadom. How about that?
Yikes.
It's been a long time.
Was that the home game where they got walked off by Geno?
Yeah, I would say under 1.5 passing touchdowns for Trevor. You think he's going to have 2 passing touchdowns, or do you think he's going to?
No, I mean, they've kind of had a hard time with the entire offense. They have 13 drops from the weapons out there. Wide receivers and running backs combined. The offense has a lot of penalties. 15 tied for the most in football this year. So they definitely hurt themselves more than they helped themselves out there in Jacksonville. And Trevor, at least so far through 3 games against not great defenses, mind you. The Texans are good, but Panthers are not great. But and the Bengals aren't having a great season thus far. They just haven't pushed the ball downfield, and they are much more targeting the middle, short, and intermediate game. So I don't think he's getting 2 passing touchdowns. I think if they get in the red zone, it'll be a rushing touchdown. So I take the under there too.
Yeah, let's go less than 1.5 passing touchdowns for Trevor. All right, let's see what it looks like. Oh no, do we have? Let's go one more. Let's go CMC. What is CMC going to do this week? Anytime touchdown for CMC, maybe. They're not. They don't have a rushing touchdown. The Niners do not have a rushing touchdown. Yeah. So that makes me think they're going to get a rushing touchdown. But the question is it going to CMC?
I don't even know if they're going to get one at all this Sunday. Like the Jaguars have an excellent run defense. Again, albeit they're not playing great running backs, and maybe that factors into questioning their legitimacy as a 2-1 team. But I'd almost think this is going to be another Christian McCaffrey, 10 reception game rather than a 1 rushing touchdown game.
Maybe let's go anytime touchdown on Christian.
Okay.
I think that's a likely one. Let's go anytime touchdown. So we'll put those together, see what our parlay looks like now. There we go. More than a half touchdown. All right. So here we go. We've got 4. If we go 4 for 4, we're going to win 30. Is that 36-35? 4 correct wins us 36-35. $5 to win $36.35. I like it. I think it's a good looking lineup. Trevor Lawrence, fewer or less than 1.5 passing touchdowns. So as long as he doesn't have 2 passing touchdowns, Etienne more than 52.5 rushing yards. Brian Thomas less than 62.5 receiving yards, and CMC with an anytime touchdown. All right, big thanks to Sleeper. Remember, use the code Larry for 100% deposit match up to $100. Links right in the description. Terms apply. Helps support the show and gets you rolling on the #1 sports app. And it's a lot of fun. Sleeper. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, couple other things I want to get into. One, let's talk for a second about Nick Bosa. What do you think the plan is going to be to fill the massive void that comes with losing Nick Bosa? Immediately, everybody's like, Trey Hendrickson. And then, it's funny. I'm watching Guy Haberman. He interviewed Daniel Jeremiah today. And Daniel Jeremiah's like, yeah, I think it's going to take a 3rd-round pick and a day 3 pick to get Trey Hendrickson. Are you kidding me?
That's crazy.
What the heck is that? I mean, I'd be pissed as hell if I was a Cincinnati Bengals fan. All I'm getting from my star, awesome, 35 sack defensive end over the last 2 years is a 3rd-round pick and a day 3 pick just because he's a free agent at the end of the year. If that is the price, then go get this guy. And I wouldn't even wait around. I'd even be willing to pay more of the salary. You got a bunch of room under the cap, but give me your plan. Because it's too easy to just be like, sign Trey Hendrickson. It's like Trey Hendrickson might be better than Nick Bosa. I mean, at the end of the day, Hendrickson's been better the last 2 years than Nick Bosa. So you're losing Nick Bosa and just being like, oh, go get Trey Hendrickson. I mean, that's like,
if only it was that easy.
My Honda CRV crapped out. Go buy a Bentley.
Yeah.
Go pay cash for a Bentley. What are you doing? Why are you messing around with anything? Just go buy yourself a Ferrari. You lost your Honda CRV. It's dead. So go buy a Pagani. Go get a $300,000 Italian sports car. I mean, it's just so ridiculous to say trade for Trey Hendrickson, but he is the #1 trade target. And if Daniel Jeremiah is right that he can be had for a 3rd-round pick and a day 3 pick, John Lynch has got to make that deal. Absolutely has to make that deal. But let's just assume that that's not the price. Let's assume that his price is significantly higher than that. And let's just say let's just take him off the board because it's just too easy to say trade for Trey Hendrickson. If Trey Hendrickson, if the price is, a 1 and the Niners are like, no, we have our 1 earmarked for an offensive tackle next spring. No way we're trading that 1. That's our replace Trent Williams piece. We're not going to trade in that chip for Trey Hendrickson, who potentially could walk at the end of the year as a free agent. So let's just say Hendrickson wasn't on the board. Then what?
Yeah, I think it's a good question because the in-house options obviously aren't Nick Bosa. My assumption is Samuel Kawanu probably plays 3rd downs for this team in Bosa's absence unless they can find somebody else. Michael obviously slides inside, and you have Bryce Huff and Gross Matos on the exterior helping things out. But
we did get an indication today from Saleh, I thought, that he doesn't want to make a bunch of changes. Like I think I think he's going to leave Mikel and Gross Matos inside and try to figure out a way to do this without interrupting everybody else's role. That's the vibe I got from him.
Well, and that's, one of the big reasons amongst many of them why losing Bosa sucks, because this defensive line has looked tremendous through 3 games, and everyone had their spot in the rotation. It all looked really well. Young guys are playing good. Unproven guys are looking more proven. I mean, Jordan Elliott looks phenomenal through 3 games, and it's like he was terrible last year for San Francisco. So we'll definitely see kind of what the domino effect is of losing Bosa. But if you are wanting to trade for somebody and acquire a big name, I think one of the younger options I think could maybe elongate San Francisco's defensive line success, even if Bosa happens, or even if Saleh happens to leave during the offseason, which is also up in the air. Who knows what happens then? I think Kayvon Thibodeau.
Who are you thinking of?
I think Kayvon Thibodeau makes some sense from the Giants. He may be more expensive, knowing that he has 2 years of team control still, signed through 2026, but a 77.5 run defense grade per PFF, a 12.5% pass rush win rate. He has 12 pressures, 5 run stops, 2 sacks. He can get to the quarterback. He can play outside. He can play inside. He can play early downs, base downs, and on third down. I think if you're wanting to pivot from Trey Hendrickson to a more manageable, younger, more controllable player, I think Thibodeau makes some sense. They're paying Brian Burns big money in New York. Their season, albeit isn't over yet, they have the Chargers, the Broncos, and Philadelphia twice in the next 5 weeks. They drafted Abdul Carter. Thibodeau kind of seems like he's on the outs. He's playing a lot, but I think he probably could be had on the trade market. But I think another name no one's really talking about yet, and I think could be one, is going back to Saleh and saying, hey, you were in New York for a while. Who do you like out there? It's a new regime. They're not playing great football. They're kind of, kind of spunky, but they're not winning football games. And they may say, hey, older regime guys, we want to bring our own dudes in. I think, there is a way where the Niners could target a player like Jermaine Johnson, who was drafted by Saleh with the New York Jets. He has 6 pressures this year, but he has a 17.4% pass rush win rate per PFF, a 61.4 run defense grade, and he has a 5th-year option through next year as well. Now, there is some injury concern. Had a torn Achilles last season, and so he's working his way back from that, but the optics look good thus far. And I think that Saleh and the connection there may make San Francisco buy more into a player like Jermaine Johnson than, say, Hendrickson or Thibodeau. Probably going to be a little cheaper, too, knowing off the injury and knowing that there's a new regime in place. So I would look at Jermaine Johnson and see if you can get him from the Jets.
Yeah, it's an interesting name. I like the idea of going to the Jets. I guess the question is this. Nick Bosa is everything, right? He's he's a luxury car that can also, go off-road. You know what I mean? He's literally, he's everything. He's everything all wrapped into one. He's the big 275-pound edge setter in the run game, but then he's also the lightning fast edge presence off the edge, on third downs that is also, moves that quarterback off the spot. I guess my question to you would be like, if you couldn't have it all, what would you want? Because I kind of like calling the Jets too, but I like Will McDonald. And the thing about Will McDonald, now granted, it's probably going to cost you a lot because he's a young player. He's healthy. He's having a good year. He's coming off a good year last year. But I think you could maybe find like Robert Beal or Trevis Gibson or, Sam O or, any number of guys might be able to set the edge in the rush game on first and second down. But to me, what really has made the Niners fun here in the first 3 games defensively is the speed that Huff has provided opposite Bosa. And if you could somehow have another speed guy like Will McDonald, who's not 270, he's like 240, 245. He's not going to be the edge setter, but he is going to be that guy that comes out of his stance and just makes that tackle, just shaking his boots with fear that he's going to give up the he's going to whiff altogether on Will McDonald the fourth, and McDonald's just going to party in the backfield. So
Right.
I like what I've seen from Yatir Gross-Matos and Mikel, because I think the advantage of that is Bosa and Huff are stretching this line, creating all this room, giving Mikel and Gross-Matos major advantages. All the extra room is to their advantage against these slow, thick, plodding guards that they're lined up against. So I would pay a little bit more for like a Will Johnson or Will McDonald, just because I want that speed guy. And it doesn't have to be him. I mean, I have a list here. I have a list of a bunch of guys. Granderson is another guy. I really like Granderson from the Saints. Why? Because he's just got ridiculous edge speed. And if you put an edge speed rusher opposite Bryce Huff, who's they call the Bugatti, and he's a crazy speed rusher. I just think, like from the list I've seen, Carl Granderson would be great. Kayvon Thibodeau would be great. The Miami kid, Jalen Phillips would be great. Darrell Taylor and Derek Barnett in Houston. Houston's going nowhere. I like both those guys. Trayvon Walker I like a lot, but I think Jacksonville's going to be pretty good. Arden Key, I would consider Arden Key. Thomas Incoom from Carolina. Granderson is a guy that I think is a really, really good fit. Will McDonald. But I would go for that speed. And I even like the idea of trying to pluck a couple practice squad guys like Mo Kamara, who played at Colorado State, was on Miami's practice squad last year, and this year he's on Tampa's practice squad. Mo Kamara is a great edge rusher, and K'Mon Rucker for Baltimore is another really good edge rusher. Braden Swinson, the former LSU star with New England, I think he's really nice. I know a lot of people have suggested Cleveland Farrell, but Cleveland Farrell is a very limited run defender at this point. But Mo Kamara, Braden Swinson, K'Mon Rucker, these are edge guys who can dial up some heat and create that space that will keep enabling Gross-Matos and Mikel to just feast inside. So I think I want the speed guy, even if that guy comes in a 250-pound package.
I also wonder if San Francisco, and let's say Mikel continues to grow as an edge rusher and maybe progresses quicker than we all thought he would as a pass rusher to begin his first year in the NFL. And maybe guys like Alfred Collins and CJ West kind of come on throughout the year, inching towards the trade deadline. I do wonder if San Francisco might feel a little more comfortable buying low on some depth pieces to kind of not raise the ceiling of the defensive line, but also raise the floor instead of the ceiling to kind of protect them somewhat as the year goes on. I think there's two underrated guys I think they could target. Now, will they? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not John Lynch, but I think DJ Wanham from the Panthers makes a ton of sense as a depth guy.
South Carolina star, another big defensive end.
He's signed through this year, but he has 3 void years on his contract. If he comes in and plays well, maybe he's a guy that can, get a new contract when it's all said and done. But he's had 5 sacks or 5+ sacks, in his last 3 full seasons. There's been some injury concerns, but adequate run defender, 60.2 run defense grade, and a 9.8% pass rush win rate since 2022, but a 12.2% this year. So there is some growth, and I think probably a cheaper option than that is going to the Cleveland Browns. And no, it's not Myles Garrett, I promise you. It's Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who was in Tampa Bay for a while, didn't fare well, for a first-round pick in 2021. He's now in Cleveland, but right now he's transitioning from playing in a 3-4 defense outside linebacker to playing with his hand in the dirt in a 4-3 defense with Jim Schwartz. But he has a 14.3% pass rush win rate. Not a great run defender, but maybe it's kind of a, let's see what you got. Cheap, 7th round trade, 7th round pick, you trade to Cleveland, who knows? Why not take a chance on guys like that maybe have a little bit more boom than bust left? So those are 2 guys I think could be kind of depth guys to add at the deadline if you can't get Hendrickson or Thibodeau or a Jermaine Johnson or a McDonald from the Jets.
Yeah, those are good names. Niners are going to need something, because through 3 weeks, the 49ers, and this was with Bosa, right? Bosa went out in week 3, but he was there week 1 and he was there week 2. But through 3 weeks of football, the 49ers are below the league average in pressure rate. They're below the league average in sack rate. They're below the league average in total hits on the quarterback. And this week against Arizona, their pressure rate from when Bosa was on the field to when he was not on the field fell from 45% when he was on the field to 28% when he wasn't on the field. So I was looking at Nick Wagner had some numbers on Bosa's history in San Francisco. In 97 games, the Niners have had Bosa in the lineup. They've blitzed their opposing quarterbacks 20% of the time, which is about where they've blitzed this year. 21, I think, is this year. In 18 games without Bosa in his career, the Niners have blitzed 31.9%. So it goes up over 10% just without Bosa. And then if you look at the 2020 season where Bosa went down in week 2 at MetLife, Saleh without Bosa that year blitzed at a 34.4% rate. So what do you think? I mean, is it as simple as Robert Saleh is now going to dial up more blitzes? I mean, does he have to? Is that pretty much fait accompli, or do you think there's another element to this we're not seeing?
I mean, I'm sure we'll see some increase of percentages of blitzes this Sunday against Jacksonville. Why not? Getting Lawrence under pressure feels like a pretty good way to force him to make throws or make him make bad throws. Looking at Lawrence's stats, 0 for 9 on deep balls this year, but more importantly, he is tied with Aaron Rodgers and Brock Purdy this season, albeit Purdy has played 1 game compared to Lawrence, for the 8th highest turnover-worthy play percentage in football. Also is tied for the 4th most turnover-worthy plays. So I think dialing up pressure, whether it's from Winters, Warner, Upton Stout, we saw Jair Brown blitz Kyler Murray on Sunday against Arizona. I do think there is going to be some kind of manufactured pressure from Robert Saleh on Sunday, and I think it will actually benefit San Francisco a ton. Lawrence has thrown 4 picks this year. That's second in football. So blitzing may be, at least this Sunday against Lawrence, where that's not going to work against the Rams. It's not going to work against Baker Mayfield. Those guys can throw against the blitz pretty well, but against Lawrence, where the offense isn't playing well, I think that's a really good chance. Saleh says, you know what, 35%, 40%, let's get at it and let's go have some fun.
What do you make of Travis Hunter? I mean, he hasn't really played. He's a two-way player, but should he be a two-way player? I mean, how would you use Travis Hunter? The way they're using him right now, he's played 92 defensive snaps in 3 games. That's 47% of the defensive snaps. He's played 121 offensive snaps, which is 59% of the offensive snaps. He's been targeted 6 times. He has 1 start in 3 games, and he's made 10 receptions as a receiver. Everybody's got a different theory on how to use this guy. I was listening to the Football Hour today, listening to Tim Ryan, and he's like, yeah, the people that I've talked to say he's a receiver and he should be a receiver. And I look at it the opposite. I don't think he's a receiver. I think he's a corner. To me, he's Deion Sanders. He's exactly Deion Sanders. You should utilize this guy the way that the Niners and the Cowboys tried to utilize Deion Sanders. He's a shutdown, man-to-man, take away half the field corner. And then he could be used in 3 wide receiver sets, maybe 2-3 times a half, in a specialty package, or on the quick game, but get the ball in his hands, schemed on offense. I think he should be a full-time corner who just moonlights on offense in specialty packages. That's the way the Niners use Deion. That's the way the Cowboys use Deion. That's who this guy is. I mean, other people think he's not physical enough to play defense and then he's got to play receiver, but
yeah,
I don't think there's – first of all, if you're going to play him on both, he's going to have a hard time mastering receiver. Just there's so much precision that's required to play receiver. So I don't know. Everybody's got a different theory on it. I think he's a corner. I don't think you can play both ways in the NFL. I don't.
No.
I think you got to choose one or the other. So I would make him a full-time shutdown man-to-man corner and just use him on a little couple specialty packages as a receiver.
Yeah, I think I kind of see it the opposite, actually. I think Travis Hunter can be an elite receiver in the NFL, which maybe you can say cornerbacks finding, the number one lockdown guy is a lot harder to find. I don't think Hunter has that potential. I think he's not great against the run. At times he gets flat-footed, and he prioritizes being a ball hawk over being, a lockdown cover corner, which that pays well. Trevon Diggs had a great, couple of years in Dallas and getting takeaways. Clearly it's valuable for many teams. It gets you paid, it gets your offensive football back and can win you games. But I think Hunter should prioritize being a wide receiver, especially knowing he's on Jacksonville, who you have Brian Thomas Jr., who hasn't been great this year, but the potential is still there. If Hunter can become the other elite wide receiver, you have two guys in some twisted, crazy world, albeit Lawrence is not Joe Burrow. You have two elite guys on the outside for you that can beat you anywhere. They can play in the slot. They can play outside. I think they should prioritize Hunter playing receiver over cornerback, but you can mix Hunter in at some places. In fact, I think it'd be better for Hunter if he wasn't a corner, if he was a free safety and could kind of let you ball hawk a little more, be that roaming guy over the top and let you get takeaways, let them get interceptions and stuff. So I think manufacturing him some touches to get him going offensively, that would help him a lot. They've even said openly that they are trying to simplify things for him offensively. So I think the Jaguars should really prioritize him being a wide receiver over a cornerback. But also I think utilizing him as that high-end free safety would not be a bad thing, maybe just on third downs or on a couple plays per drive. But I think his future is that wide receiver rather than cornerback, actually.
Everybody's got a different thought on him. I mean, there's no question about it. It's like not everybody sees it the same way. The Niners in the red zone. I mean, what do you make of their? See, I threw this to Kubiak today, and he gave me a look from a death look. I said, through 3 games, I go, CMC's got 13 carries for 7 yards in the red zone.
Yeah.
I go, you guys don't seem like you're moving anybody, and especially it shows up in the red zone. The guard play, Pooney seems to have regressed. Colby didn't play well when he was hurt. I don't know. I mean, what do you make of this 49er offensive line? I mean, 29th in run block win rate, 31st in stuffed run percentage, and they can't run it at all in the red zone, and they're having to pass the ball in the low red zone. This is, once again, it's like not every team is like this. Philadelphia is 8 for 8 in the red zone with 8 touchdowns. The Niners rank 3rd lowest in the NFL in points per red zone trip. What is their issue in the red zone, and how do they solve it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an exact remedy for the issues they're having. Obviously, their offensive line from a personnel standpoint is not as good as Philadelphia. In fact, it's probably one of the worst amongst offensive lines simply based on personnel on paper. I just don't think it's that good. Obviously, you have some pieces you like, but there's 2 big ones. You kind of sit back and you're like, you're not moving anybody. Obviously, teams know you have Christian McCaffrey. They're stacking the box. And I think this game on Sunday, you are going to see almost an exact copy paste of what you've seen through the first 3 weeks. Jacksonville has an excellent run defense. And if you go to, PFF, that's a team that has held, again, the Texans, who have Woody Marks and Nick Chubb in the backfield. And, you have Chase Brown in Cincinnati and Jake Browning playing quarterback and whatnot. But they just find a way to hold opponents to, right now, the 5th lowest yards in football, 82.7, and under 20 attempts per game. So I don't think you are going to see San Francisco and their running attack change at all. I think it'll be whether it's Brock Purdy or Mac Jones or AJ Martinez, there's a reason the quarterback has dropped back 70 times the last 2 weeks. It's because he can't run the football. So this is probably the best run defense they played all year, in my opinion. So it'll probably continue, but I don't think there is an exact remedy for the issues they're having unless you're finding a starting center and a starting left guard that can actually move a defensive tackle continually from inside the 20.
It's a major problem for the 49ers because, I mean, and by the way, I've heard that excuse too so far, is that, defenses are loading the box and daring the Niners to pass. But I looked at some of the numbers. CMC in 2023 faced 8-man boxes 36% of the time, according to Next Gen Stats. That was an NFL high in 2023. This year, he's facing 8-man boxes 19.3% of the time. So a high percentage, but not as high as his, when he was the reigning offensive player of the year that year. So, I mean, somehow they're going to have to run the ball better in the red zone, or it's going to be a rough year. You can't beat Philadelphia if Philadelphia can Philadelphia can run the ball and push anything, and convert anything inside of 2.5 yards, and you're passing on 4th and 1 from the 1. And that's where they were a week ago. They were passing on 4th and 1 from the 1. The Niners also were 2 for 10 on third down conversions against Arizona. Niners have the number 1 pass offense, number 23 rush offense. Yeah. Shanahan says they want to be balanced, but man, they got to get that run game going somehow, some way.
Yeah. Yeah, I do wonder if this Sunday, not from a running standpoint, because Eric Armstead, Trevon Walker, Josh Hines Allen, excuse me, Devin Lloyd, and Luke Kung out there, like that Jaguars defense can stop the run, and they're going to give San Francisco's quarterback and their offensive line and their offense a ton of different looks. It's a very Saleh background, Fangio background, even kind of a Belichick, Brian Flores background with their defensive coordinator. So it'll be a very exotic offense or defense to go against. But I will say, thankfully, the Jaguars this year have allowed the 13th highest third down conversion. So maybe there is hope somewhere that they can improve their third down conversion rate on Sunday, and maybe even be not a great running attack, but maybe be a running game that can at least extend some drives. But I also wonder, and maybe you don't have the stats on this, I know I don't, but I wonder what their short yardage to gain. So, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 4th and 1. I wonder what their rushing attack does then, because I'm sure it's probably very similar to what it's doing in the red zone. Short yardage to gain. This offense isn't moving the football on the ground at all. So this to me, again, drop back passing. That'll be how San Francisco wins, if they do indeed win against Jacksonville.
One of the, this game kind of feels like a tough game. Why? Because you've got Jacksonville running the ball well. They also have weapons that have a lot of speed. And then you also have, Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter looking for kind of their bust out games. And then you have a defense that Jacksonville has that's taking the ball away. And all the best defenses take the ball away. And they've taken it away 9 times in the first 3 games, including 7 interceptions. So they're really taking it away. And it's like they get a couple takeaways and run the ball even just mediocre, and they could easily win this game.
Yeah, I have it in my notes here. This game is going to be won in between the numbers over the middle of the football field, but it's going to be a slog, long drives, trading punts, and whatever quarterback or offense doesn't turn the ball over should win the football game. I think whether it's Purdy or Mac Jones, 1 interception a game is not out of the question. And for Trevor Lawrence, he's already thrown 4. So I think whatever defense or whatever team wins the turnover battle probably wins on Sunday. But I'm expecting a kind of duke it out, all out brawl to whoever can score, 20 points or 23 points. This game's going to be close the entire way. I'm not expecting a blowout by any means. I think San Francisco, they're at home, rest advantage, not flying from the East Coast to come to California, but this will be probably one of their toughest fought games, which they've had 3 of them already. So I don't know what that says about the San Francisco, but it's going to be a game that is, every yard matters on Sunday.
Do you think the Niners' schedule to you looks easier or more difficult than you thought it was in the preseason?
Well,
because really if you look at this thing, like Jacksonville to me looks better. The
Yes.
Rams look better. Tampa looks better. Indianapolis looks better. Maybe Seattle looks better. But then I look at the other teams and I'm like, well, Atlanta looks worse, and
Yeah.
Houston looks worse, and Carolina and Cleveland and Tennessee don't look all that great, and the Bears don't look all that great, and the Giants don't look, you know what I mean? So it's like you look at there's definite, teams that look way better, like Indianapolis, but then there's also teams that you thought maybe might be pretty decent early on, and now they don't look very good, like Atlanta.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit more difficult because the teams that aren't playing well, let's say Houston, for example, are they really going to be bad all year? And by the time San Francisco plays them, maybe the offensive line's playing better. Maybe Joe Mixon's back. Who knows? You know, I would bet the Texans are at least playing average football by midseason. The Falcons are also interesting because they go in there and they beat the Vikings in primetime football, but then they get shut out against the Panthers on the road. So, but they also have weapons too. Like Robinson's excellent in the backfield, and Drake London isn't having a great year, but he's a good wide receiver. And maybe Kirk Cousins starts games for all we know for Atlanta. So there's so much in question. I think that the good teams are there. You knew they were going to be good, but some of the bad teams they play, I think, are going to give them more of a fight than we think. But I walk into the year expecting 10 wins, and I think they're on track for that right now. So maybe it looks harder if your expectations were better. 12 win, maybe 11 wins, but I said 10 wins. I think it's pretty close to what I believed it was going to be. But on Sunday, though, I did not expect Jacksonville to be this good this year. They're 2-1. Who they beaten, I don't know, but that's a really good defense. A really good defense in Jacksonville through 3 games. So they're going to have the work made out for them on Sunday.
First year defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like you're sitting there going, how good is this defense? I don't know much about this Jaguars defensive coordinator, Anthony Campanile.
He was the linebackers coach in Green Bay last year, and he spent time under Vic Fangio when he was in Miami, and then also spent time with Flores, I think, when he was also in Miami. So he's Belichick, Flores, Fangio, and Saul last year in some degree with the Packers. So a lot of experience, but a linebackers coach at heart.
Yeah, number 2, Jacksonville is an EPA per play. They've got 9 takeaways. They had 9 takeaways all of last year. They have 9 takeaways already in the first 3 games. 7 picks. Josh Hines-Allen has a 14.1% pressure rate. They picked up Jordan Lewis from Dallas. He's their nickel.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 picks and a fumble recovery. They're 6th in points. They're 10th in yards. Trayvon Walker is starting to fulfill his potential. It's a pretty good defensive front they have. There's no question about that. Very interesting. And, it could be, and the Niners are leaning on a lot of young players. The Niners are 3rd in the NFL in rookie snap count percentage after 3 weeks. So they're using a lot of young players. So, to me, it's pretty interesting that the 49ers are 3-0, because if you look at them, they have 0 rushing touchdowns. They have not forced an interception. They're terrible on special teams still. They're 3rd worst red zone offense in football. Brock's been out. Kittle's been out. Ayuk's been out. Mustafa's been out. They've already switched kickers. They have the most projected 2026 compensatory picks from all the free agent defections, and yet they're still 3-0 out of the chute. I mean, if you're a Niner fan, you got to be thrilled with the way they've started this year.
Sometimes it pays to be lucky instead of good, and I think San Francisco has definitely gotten some luck. Rondo Green has definitely been a player that has struggled in 1 drive per game, and kind of come up lucky. The Saints game coming to mind, probably the most of his plays, but they're 3-0. That's all that matters. I'm sure the Cardinals would love to be 3-0, and the Seahawks would love to be 3-0. But I think the hope is your luck carries you to getting your stars back, and then your stars can carry you to actually playing really good football again. But and we've kind of talked about how tough Jacksonville may be on Sunday and how it'll be maybe a tough game, but there is some areas they can exploit Jacksonville, especially in that secondary, I think. Tyson Campbell having a fine year, but 119.2 passer rating allowed and 3 touchdowns. That is, I think, Pearsall's go-to of like, I want that guy against me every single snap. Even Jerrion Jones, who was their nickelback last year, is now playing outside cornerback. 104 passer rating allowed and 1 touchdown. So I know there is some pitfalls to hopefully avoid against Jacksonville, but San Francisco should be able to find some offensive success, but that feels like it's going to be through the air, not on the ground.
We should tell people that today's show is sponsored by Habbas Law. For more than 40 years, Omar Habbas and his son Tarek have been standing up for people right here in Northern California. They're fierce, relentless attorneys. They do not back down until justice is done. When you're injured, insurance companies try to minimize your pain. They try to not pay. And that's the beautiful thing about Habbas Law. They know the playbook. They've been battling and beating these insurance companies for decades. And, they're official partners of Bay Area institutions like the San Francisco Giants, the San Jose Sharks, San Jose State, Santa Clara. So they're not just advertising here in Northern California. They're actually aligned with the community. So if you need someone in your corner, call the firm the insurance companies are hoping you never call, and that's Habbas Law. They will fight to make it right. Visit them on the web at habbaslaw.com, HABBAS law.com. You can also give them a call at their 1-800 number, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. All right, Habbas Law brings us our matchup to watch, and give me a matchup or two, Sterling, that you are really looking forward to honing in on Sunday at 1:00.
Yeah, I think not one person, if you will, but I think as a unit, it's going to be San Francisco's offensive line in pass protection against the Jacksonville defensive line. So far this year, you look at what Josh Hines-Allen has done and Travon Walker have done on the edge. They are the only 2 edge rushers in football this year to have over 50% of their team's pressures. They have 31 combined pressures and 3 sacks on the season. Hines-Allen has been a monster. My biggest fear is him going against someone like Colton McKivitz or an older Trent Williams. I think the tackles are going to have a big job ahead of them. So if you said, hey, Sterling, what is one area you believe can either give San Francisco fits or surprisingly be an area where San Francisco succeeds, I think it is Travon Walker, Josh Allen against Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz. If San Francisco wins that, there's a good chance they can win on Sunday.
I like the Niners in a couple areas here. I really like the 49er corners. I like the way they're playing. Renardo Green, Demo Lenore, Upton Stout. I like them to win. I like them to win against Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington, the former Penn State player, is pretty good. Tim Patrick's not bad. De'Ami Brown's hurt, I believe. But yeah,
I like he practiced today.
Did he practice today? I like the Niner
so.
corners in this matchup against the Jaguar receivers. I think that's a major advantage for the 49ers. And I kind of like the Niner receivers, especially on the outside. I like Demarcus Robinson this week against Jerrion Jones or Tyson Campbell.
Yep.
Hunter plays a little bit at left corner. They've got, Jordan Lewis playing the slot, and he's a really good player. But I just think that Demarcus Robinson is going to hit the ground running. I think he's going to step right into the lineup and start producing. This guy made plays all summer on the sideline, in the middle of the field, crossing routes, in the flat, toe tapping on the sideline, go routes, post patterns, wheel routes. I mean, I saw him run about every route imaginable this summer. And I really think Demarcus Robinson he's in great, one of the comments that the quarterbacks were asked about him today. Hey, what did you think of Demarcus Robinson? And they brought up, and maybe it was Kubiak that brought it up as well, he's in tremendous shape. So he was in great shape all summer. All these other guys are going down and all these other guys getting hurt. And, Demarcus Robinson has not been hurt. Demarcus Robinson played every practice, and he's in his prime, and he's in great shape. So I think he's going to hit the ground running. I like the matchup with Demarcus Robinson against Jerrion Jones. I like the matchup with Demarcus Robinson against Tyson Campbell. I think Demarcus Robinson's going to catch half dozen balls in this game. I really think he steps right off the 3-game suspension and right into a productive role. I like him to win.
He can't be any worse than MVS, and I think he'll open up so much. And people look at the Niners offense and they say, oh, it's been Pearsall having a great season and looking good. And it's really just been Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey. Nobody else is truly helping. There's been some receptions from Kendrick Bourne, and there's been some receptions from Jake Chungus here or there. But I think swapping out Demarcus Robinson and MVS is like going from the 8th guy on your bench in the NBA to a legitimate starting caliber player. So I think having the other threat on there makes San Francisco's passing offense so much more dangerous. I do have one question, though, in regards to San Francisco's cornerback room against Jacksonville's wide receivers. And I agree with you. Lenore's playing great football. Green's playing good enough football outside of 1 drive per game, which I think he can clean that up. And Stout's been a big surprise for me, at least as a rookie. But have you seen this stat? And this is a big concern because the Jaguars really haven't passed the ball deep down the field yet. They're 0 for 9 this season. Brian Thomas Jr. looks lost. There's no connection with him and Lawrence, but we discussed
what has happened to Brian Thomas Jr. because he was awesome last year. 10 touchdowns. He looked as good as any rookie receiver.
It's the Mac Jones effect.
He has had to say Brian Thomas Jr. is going through a sophomore slump does not even speak to it. He's been terrible. Ice cold.
Yeah, there's 24
I talked
targets.
To a guy from Jacksonville this week, Sterling, who was like, dude, he's not the same guy this year.
Yeah. Well, just the stats, 24 targets, 7 receptions, 3 drops. I mean, that's tied for second in football, and he was one of the best wide receivers in all the league last year. But the one thing Jacksonville does good is they move their guys around a lot. Brian Thomas Jr. primarily plays left outside wide receiver at the top of the screen, but he's played 30% of his snaps in the slot. Hunter has played just about 67% of his snaps in the slot this season. I do have a concern that the Jaguars have seen the struggles of Green on penalties deep downfield. If you go to San Francisco's defense, Green, Stout, and Lenore, this is including penalties that have been negated by offsetting stuff or declined, they rank second, and third amongst cornerback penalties this year, Green having a couple of DPIs this season. So I wonder if game's tight late, let's take a deep shot downfield, and Green comes up grabbing somebody because he panics again. I think that could be an area where if it gets kind of nitty-gritty down to the wire, I can see Jacksonville taking a shot and saying, hey, we need big yards late, and then Green or Stout or somebody pulls on the receiver. So I just watch out for that. And it actually does concern me because we have seen this defense play great football, but one bad drive makes this game way closer than it should be.
Poise with the ball in the air is what you're talking about. And we didn't see that last week from Renardo Green. And there's no reason to panic because, you know what? The offense still has to make the play. You know what I mean? The ball's, and it's like, it's just because the ball's in the air and it's coming your way doesn't mean you got to wrap up the receiver. Take a chance. Compete to the bitter end. Don't give it away by just grabbing a hold of the guy and letting the zebras throw the easy flag. All right, let's hit some supers before we get out of here. We got those. Let's see. I think we got those early ones. Okay, yeah. Claw Daddy Arcades is in the house. He's a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades. He says, Krug, how did your sleeper pick turn out? We've done really, really well on the sleeper picks. I'm not sure exactly how the latest one has turned out, but they're doing really well. I mean, the sleeper picks are doing very, very well. By the way, thank you to Claw Daddy Arcades, who sent us to New Orleans for week 2, Niners and Saints. What an incredible trip that was to New Orleans. Thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades, and he's a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades. Check him out. He's got a brand new arcade location just opened up in the mall here, Capitola in the South Bay. Capitola Mall down in the South Bay. And he's got another one opening in Visalia Mall down in the Central Valley. So look for that a little bit later on this year. So thanks to Claudette Arcades for sponsoring the Krug Show. Jackson in the house says, Larry, I see what you're saying about the Niners waiting on Hendrickson. However, many other contenders can join the market, especially if injuries occur. I say get him now. I hear you. I totally hear you. I think that there's some problems in getting him now because now he makes a lot of money and there's a lot of weeks. And it's a prorate. All these deals are prorated. So if you can wait 3 or 4 weeks, you can kind of shave off millions. But you're right. It's a competitive situation. Hendrickson is a slam dunk. Hendrickson is arguably better than Bosa. And yeah, there's a bunch of people that would love to have Trey Hendrickson. So
do you think some of that is the fact that Cincinnati's 2-1, backup quarterback, offense hasn't played great, and they realize that while things may not go their way and they can lose, all their games the remainder of the season for all I know, I feel like that they feel like they need Hendrickson to maybe keep them afloat, to maybe get back to Burrow or get to the trade deadline and feel okay about themselves. I don't think they're going to trade him unless they just crater before the trade deadline.
I don't know. I mean, they only got him 1-year deal done with him. It seems like he's headed towards free agency. He's a big piece of the puzzle. I think with Burrow being hurt, I think they'd be crazy not to trade him in for whatever they can get. Now, that being said, if all they can get is a 3rd-round draft choice, you're talking about one of the impactful defensive ends in the game right now. I would not be moving him for a 3rd-round draft choice. I don't even think I'd be moving him for a 2nd-round draft choice.
What team wants to trade for an edge rusher, which certainly helps you. Von Miller helped the Rams in 2021, but they're saying, I got 8 games of this guy, which may help me, but some teams may say 1st-round pick, 2nd-round pick. No way.
Here's the one thing, though, from the Niner perspective. The Niners have been doing, the Les Snead hit on some ones, missed on some ones, hit on some ones, missed on some ones. And then him and McVay finally said, look, Kroenke wants this freaking Super Bowl really, really badly. He's built this palace of a stadium. We need to rekindle football popularity in Southern California like ASAP because there's more Raiders and Niners and Chargers fans here than Rams fans. So the Rams used to own LA. So the Rams were very desperate. So I think Les Snead said, hey, look, we're not hitting with our high picks at a rate that's going to get us there. So let's trade him. Traded him for Stafford, traded him for Ramsey, traded him for, guys that they could win now. And sure enough, they've got their Super Bowl. They got their win now Super Bowl. I kind of think the Niners are now in that mode. They were trying to do it the right way, build through the draft. They've done that for the most part, but now they've had just enough failure with their day 1 and day 2 picks to kind of offset the momentum that they've gotten from some of the other great moves they've made. And I think the 49ers are probably, or at least they probably should be thinking, you know what? If we want this ring, we might have to go get somebody, a hired gun, to help us get this ring. Because I think if John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are if they're seeing this right, and I think they probably are, they probably understand this dynamic. If they win the 6th Lombardi in 49er history, it justifies Jed in front of his parents. It validates Parag. It changes the football narrative of Kyle Shanahan. It changes the football life of Hall of Famer John Lynch. It changes everything. And I think it would be such an elation for the organization and for the market if the 49ers won that 6th Lombardi, that I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan would be pretty much made men with this franchise going forward. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, you build through the draft and this and that, but you've tried that, and guess what? You went for Trey Lance. You tried the big free agent signing. You went for Hargrave. And now it just didn't work out. Now I think you got to think outside the box. Now I think you got to do everything in your power to cash in. You've got future Hall of Famer Kittle, Bosa, CMC, Williams, all these guys in the twilight of their career. Bosa's now out for the year. These guys are not going to be better in 2 years. Most of them are not going to be in football in 3 years. So if I were the Niners, I think I would try to shortcut the process if I could. If I felt like Trey Hendrickson could get me over the top, then I'm going for Trey Hendrickson, man, because I got to get that. I got to get that Super Bowl ring. I got to get that 6th Lombardi. If I get that 6th Lombardi, it's like the entire organization is validated and the owner's validated and it's just Denise and Dr. John York have been living for 25 freaking years in the shadow of Eddie D. They would get out from that shadow if they got this Super Bowl. Jed would be a made man. Parag would be writing a book. It would be major, major, major. So I know they had this one plan, but now you may have to audible. No different than a football game. Hey, you know what? You thought you were going to do it this way, but now you got down on the 5-yard line, and here comes Philly special, Nick Foles. It's like, I think if the Niners are going to get it done, they're going to have to think outside the box and maybe take a big risk, and that might be trading a high pick or two for Trey Hendrickson. And I'll say this, when you trade veterans for picks, the team that gets the veteran generally wins because there's a failure rate to the picks.
Right.
It's like, I got 5 picks. Yeah, but you only turned 3 of them into good players. The Niners traded 4 picks, I think, for Christian McCaffrey, but Carolina only turned like 1 of those picks into something good.
Yeah.
Where the Deshaun Watson deal, the Texans turned several of those picks into really good players. And that turned that into one of the worst trades of all time. For who? They trade. It was for the Texans, right? They traded for the Browns. Worst trade of all time for the Browns. So yeah, I just think the 49ers are going to get it done. They're going to have to. The odds of them picking all of the right players in the draft are probably no more than 20%. But the odds of getting like a Trey Hendrickson or trading for that one piece that gets you over the top, I think that might be a little bit. You may want to hedge your bet on that and try that route because, it's short-sighted, but nobody's going to remember that, you traded 2 high draft picks for a 30-year-old defensive end if you win that Super Bowl.
Do you think after what the team did in the offseason, letting a lot of guys go via free agency, kind of cutting the fat off the roster, trading away Deebo Samuel, extending guys to, yes, retain them for the long term, but also lower their cap hits in the upcoming seasons, do you think they can actually convince Jed and Prague, who have kind of gone to cost cutting to make the roster cheaper and younger and whatnot, to actually say, hey, let's buck that trend we're currently on. Let's pay a dude that's in his 30s for 1 year, hopefully maximize this season and be our Nick Bosa replacement, and maybe jeopardize losing a first-round pick or a second-round pick, whatever it is, and maybe kind of leveraging some future to actually get that done? Like, do you think they can actually convince Jed and Prague to do that?
Yes, but they're going to have to show it on the field, and then they're also going to have to, they're going to have to, make it seem like this is the final piece. I don't know that. And also, I don't think Jed and Parag want to give up that number 1. I think if you can work on a pick package that includes 2s and 3s and other assets and keep your 1, because I really think their 26 first-round pick is earmarked for one of those tackles.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty convinced they're going to have to go that direction. All right, we got a couple more here. Claudette Arcades. Cowherd has the blazing 5. Krug needs to coin his weekly picks into a segment, given how the last couple of weeks have been. Claudette, I might have to do that. Krug's. We used to have on KMBR. They used to call it Krug's crap picks, which was their way of saying my picks weren't good.
Yeah.
Joseph Ernberg says, don't add anyone, save everything for 2026, Larry. I don't get that. That makes no sense to me. Trent Williams is probably not even going to be on this team in 2026.
Okay.
And if he is, it'll be his last year. And Kittle's older. And you can't convince me that Kittle, Bosa, Warner, CMC, and Trent that the smart play is to tuck tail and try to do it in 26. That makes no sense at all. All your best players are in the twilight of their prime. Would you agree?
For the most part, I don't think Warner is there yet, but Christian McCaffrey, yes. Kittle, we'll see, but yes, on the wrong end of 30, if you will.
But is Warner going to be better next year than this year? I mean, the odds of that are probably not very good.
I mean, we're 3 games in. I mean, I don't know what his year looked like. Looks like when it's all said and done, but the odds would say that as he gets older, he will, dip down in coverage skills and the speed will go down and everything. But I would retort and maybe ask you this. So let's assume that first round pick is slotted for a tackle. That is Trent's replacement, whether it be in 26 or 27, whenever that first round pick eventually plays, he will take over Trent's job on the left-hand side. I do think there is a way you can almost maximize the older guys in the twilight of their career, but it kind of goes with pairing Christian McCaffrey with a running back that could kind of take the load off of him as the bell cow. McCaffrey becomes a wide receiver in a sense, but I don't know if Shanahan wants to do that in round 2. I do think there is a way they can remain competitive and win in 2026, but to your point, this team, and I think what you're getting at is they don't have time to waste. They spent so much time being a really good team and losing really big games, 2 Super Bowls, and it's been heartbreaking, and they really have to put it together. Like, if they don't win in the next 2 years, you are having that Andy Reid conversation with Kyle, and that's already taking place. You are questioning, can you actually get it done? So I think to your point, and many of the fans' points, it's more about you can't afford to waste 2025 because one guy goes down. If you're competitive and the offense finds its footing and is scoring 26 points a game again, and you look like, a number 2 seed, a NFC West Division winner, then you owe it to your guys in the front office and the GM and the fans to go for it all again. But that's why the next 5 to 6 games are so pivotal for San Francisco. If you can prove that you belong in the category of Super Bowl contender, then mortgage your future and maximize yourself. But that's why games like against Jacksonville and against the Rams and against the Bucs and the Falcons and the Texans are so important. If you can win those games and be 6-2, then you're in a really good spot, and you convince Jed to say, okay, we're all in once again in 2025.
No, I think it's a good point. All right, let's finish up on a prediction. What do you give me a prediction either for the score or for something that you think we're going to see in this game come Sunday? Give me something that you like.
I think we are going to have a 49ers pick 6. I think it'll be Fred Warner. I think if you look at the stats for Trevor Lawrence right now, Trevor Lawrence, 38% of his passes are over the intermediate or short part of the middle of the football field. He has 30 of his 40 attempts have been completions over the middle, so he's really good over the middle. Meanwhile, Fred Warner, one of the best middle of the football field erasers, San Francisco this year is allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete about 68% of their passes over the middle for 148 yards and an 87.1 completion rate or passer rating, excuse me. But I think Lawrence gets some pressure, gets some blitzes. I think he'll throw a pick 6 against San Francisco, and it'll be via the hands of Fred Warner.
I think this is going to be a real active Robert Saleh game. I really do. I think Robert Saleh is going to come after Trevor Lawrence. I think he thinks that Trevor Lawrence can't handle pressure. And I think the Niners are going to sell out for hits. I think they're going to play fast and physical. They're going to give Jacksonville the opportunity to make some big plays. But I think that they're also going to get some hits on Trevor Lawrence, and I think they're going to shut down this run game. I know people don't think that the Niners can shut down Jacksonville's run game, but I think they can. And I think there's an urgency around the 49ers because of the injury to Bosa. And I think Robert Saleh is going to blitz at a higher rate. I think you're going to see a blitz rate that's really between 30 and 35%. which is quite a bit higher than the 21% we've seen in the first 3 games. But I think he's going to bring I think he's going to bring the house, man. I think he's going to bring it from all over the place. I think they're going to, they're not going to let anything, let it all hang out, as they say. I don't think he's going to leave anything in the bag of tricks. I think they're going to play games up front. I think they're not, after Murray last week, the Niners do well after playing a mobile quarterback, because it just seems so relatively easy to rush a pocket passer compared to these guys that can move around like Kyler Murray can. So I think they're going to really enjoy rushing Trevor Lawrence. And because he doesn't have great mobility, they're going to play games up front. They're going to blitz. They're going to get home. And I think he's going to turn it over a couple times. I like the Niners to win this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game again, but I'll say 21-10 49ers. I don't think Jacksonville's going to score a lot of points here.
I think it'll be Niners win 23-19. Field goals, a lot of punts, maybe a couple defensive touchdowns, but it'll be a one-score game once again. So hold on to your seats, start biting your fingernails, and just kind of hold on for good luck, because they're going to need it on Sunday against Jacksonville.
And this segment is brought to you by Habbas Law. Once again, if you need someone in your corner, call the firm insurance companies. Hope you don't. Habbas Law, they will fight to make it right. Visit habbaslaw.com on the web, 1-800-INJURED. And thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, Sterling, tell people how they can get a hold of you and find your stuff. And I know you're doing a bunch of things. Tell people where they can find you.
And you can follow me on social media at 49ers_access is the X, or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And I host a podcast on the audio podcasting platforms like Spotify and Apple, and on YouTube called 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS. We go live almost every single day. In fact, today we dropped a preview of Niners versus the Jaguars. So go ahead and check that out. And Larry, always happy to be on with you.
Oh, man, it's always great to rap with you. We'll do it. I don't know about next week, because next week I'll be at the stadium, or won't be at SoFi, but I'll be on after this game. But maybe we can do something either earlier on Thursday, or maybe we'll pick another day next week. But we'll definitely stream sometime next week. We're just not sure exactly when. But thanks to Sterling, thanks to all of you guys, thanks to Pig in a Pickle, thanks to Sleeper, and thanks to Habbas Law. And, of course, Claw Daddy Arcades and Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Thanks to all of you. The links are in the description for all of our sponsors. If you want to help the show, shop the sponsors. Thanks to Sterling. Thanks to all of you guys. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly